Namaskar. My presentation is recipient area planning. I am going to include following topics: the scalp zone, the planning of the area, site creation, graft injury, graft storage, and the implantation. No conflict of interest. The beauty lies in the proportion of one body part to the another. When this proportion gets disturbed, then the aesthetic gets compromised. This man looks happy, his face looks balanced. Why? Because the proportion of the face means one third, and one third is maintained. But when he loses hair, the hairline gets receded and the proportion gets disturbed. The forehead becomes broader than the rest of the middle and the lower one third part. Patient doesn't feel happy. So here is the role of hair restoration in framing of the face, in which you advance the hairline, you frame the face by putting back the hairline where it was. So this has been done in the hair restoration. This is a picture before and after. Now the zones of the balding scalps are the frontal, mid scalp, and the crown. This is how we can understand it. A very simple way, we can divide one third, and one third, front, middle, and the crown, the back portion. And for easy understanding and explanation to the patient, I come out with a formula of forefinger, and the forefinger, means front forefinger, middle forefinger, and backside forefinger. And each forefinger is roughly around 90 to 100 square centimeter, and one area is around 100 square centimeter, having density of total is 30,000 grafts in the total area of 300 square centimeter. If we consider the density is 100 grafts per square centimeter. The limitation of hair transplant, the both surgeon and the patient should understand, and a surgeon should explain that there is a discrepancy, there is a big gap between the recipient area demand and the donor supply. So again we can see here midfrontal point. This midfrontal point and frontotemporal point makes your anti-hairline, and the frontal zone or the frontal area is between the hairline and the mid-scalp area. This is bounded by an imaginary line connecting to external auditory meatus. Then behind the frontal area is the mid-scalp, and the posterior boundary of the mid-scalp is bounded by a line passing through the transition point. The transition point is the point where the horizontal scalp surface starts going sloping down and becomes vertical. So it is the junction of a horizontal and the vertical crown area, that is the transition point. In lateral view, this is a TP, temporal point. This is a parietal hump. This is anterior hairline. This is the frontal, mid-scalp, and the crown area. Now the fringes: antetemporal fringe, superior parietal fringe, and this is the parietal fringe and the occipital fringe. Now the frontal area includes the anterior hairline, frontal area, and the temporal triangle. This makes the frontal zone. The shape of the hairline may be triangular, may be oval, round, or the square. For the Indian face, usually round to oval, depending upon the shape of the scalp. These are the important landmarks which a hair transplant surgeon should know and understand, and how to mark them. Midfrontal point, frontotemporal point, TP temporal point, parietal hump, and the transition point. Now the location of hairline, usually there are the three criteria. One is you can locate hairline to a point where the horizontal and the vertical portion of the forehead and the horizontal portion of the scalp meet. Or the another criteria is 7 to 10 centimeter from the glabella, or third is simple is a forefinger from the glabella, or fourth criteria is the superior frown line. These are the criteria. I usually keep, like in higher grade of baldness in this case, limited donor area. I took 8 centimeter. This looks pretty good. But if the young fellow like this has got good donor area, but advanced grade of baldness, I kept it around 7.5 centimeter. Still it looks good over his face. Now another important point is the frontotemporal angle or FTP. This is the point made by the hairline, frontal hairline and the temporal fringe. Where these two meets is that FTP, and the angle formed by the angle between both the line is the frontotemporal angle. This is very important landmark. One should understand how to locate this point. What happens in AGA? There is a miniaturization and receding of midfrontal point and frontotemporal point, and an hair restoration surgeon needs to restore them back. That's what has been done in this case. Now, how do we locate the FTP and midfrontal point? I have already explained you. This is the midfrontal point, FTP and TP. All 3 points got receded because of AGA. Now we need to relocate them and we put them back here. Here it is very important to understand that all these landmarks recedes in the same proportion in the process of AGA. So when you are restoring them, then you must restore them keeping the same proportion of midfrontal, frontotemporal and temporal point. If you don't maintain this proportion, the aesthetic of the face will be compromised and transplanted or reconstructed hairline will look unnatural. Now FTP, these are the landmarks you must know. Lateral canthus we know, anterior border of the sideburn, posterior border of the sideburn and the tragus point, angle of mandible. So what we have been reading is the FTP we place from a line drawn from lateral canthus up and the posteriorly to meet with the superior border of the temporal fringe. Here we locate, but sometimes there can be confusion that we put it here, we put it here or we put it here. So for that one more guideline is needed. You can draw a line from the angle of mandible, anterior border of the sideburn, and it goes up and meet to that line which we decided before. So here is the most commonly drawn or where we locate this FTP. But if you have higher grade of baldness, less number of donor supply, then you can put this point little more posteriorly and line going or touching through the posterior border of the sideburn. Or if further shortage of donor area, high grade of baldness, then this line can be taken just anterior to the tragus. This I'll explain you when we are going to create the parietal hump. Now another important point for FTP is that the FTP should lie in the line of lateral canthus. Then third criteria for FTP is the frontotemporal point is FTP should be at higher level to MFP or at the same level. Then reconstructed hairline will look natural. Now you see, very commonly patient asked to make this FTP obtuse. I do make sometime, but I love to have an acute angle and fill this angle with few single hair follicle. But patient wants to make it round, but still we should keep in mind that this point should always be higher than or at the level of mid-frontal point, never below this. So this was done in this case. This is another case, the same criteria was followed. Now, see what has happened here. I explained you, this is a mid-frontal point and FTP is lower than the mid-frontal point. What has gone wrong? Let's understand. This is the receded line. We should bring it forward. Patient asks for this rounding of this angle. Many times. Surgeon, no, this is wrong. But Because of the pressure of the patient, the surgeon may make it obtuse angle and the FT becomes lower than midfrontal point in this. But whatever the pressure come, you must follow the standard guideline of the aesthetic creation of the hairline. So it should not be done. Now this is another blunder. Not only he designed a wrong hairline, but he put a strip in the anterior hairline, which is, I think, the biggest blunder one can do. And because of the process of AGA, the hair has been lost in this area. It should not be done. Now, very often, patient and patient attendant want to lower the hairline. Lowering the hairline may look unnatural and may demand more number of hair follicle. So how to solve this problem? So we create a widow's peak, means in the center you can make it lower down, you can put few hair grafts single for here, and you can advance this temporal fringe and TP point more anteriorly over the forehead. When you do this, this will create an illusion of lower hairline. In spite of that, you have salvaged many of the graft. This is what I did in this case. And this, I created the widow's peak, but hairline is much higher than this, but still it looks that the forehead is narrow and patient is happy. Now the anterior hairline, the important zones are frontal tuft area or the core area. Transition zone has got macro and micro irregularities and a defined zone. These are the sentinel hair or the random hair. These are the clusters and these are the gap. You can see this picture also. These are the sentinel hair. This is the cluster and these are the gaps. So we need to reconstruct when the frontal area, then make the transition zone, then just behind that a defined more denser zone, and much denser is a core area, that is the tuft area, and that has been done in this case. Means the transition zone having the micro and macro irregularities, and behind that is defined zone, which we use that 2 hair follicle unit, and a frontal tuft area in which you use 2 and 3 hair follicle unit. This is a very irregular hairline. Same mistake has been done. This angle has been made obtuse. Now another area in which he had the scar, we did the same thing. Without doing the lowering of the hairline, we created the widow's peak here, but after growth of hair, the forehead looks narrow, hairline looks lower, but it is not. This is another area, we have done it. This is another case. Now see this hairline. What has gone wrong in this case? We'll analyze one by one. FTP is lower than MFP. This is midfrontal and this is a frontotemporal point. This is lower. It is making unnatural. Another is hairline looks straight. Third point is multifollicular unit has been put in the hairline. We should always put the single hair follicle unit, and nowadays you must examine under the microscope that there is no telogen hair in that, because after implantation the telogen hair may grow and the double hair follicle unit may be placed, will be in the anterior line, which looks unnatural. And the fourth is the curl of hair has not been taken care. When you implant in the hairline, you must take care of the curl of the hair. And fifth is the different direction of implanted hair, which is making a bizarre appearance. So it's a crime to do it. Now the temporal area recreation, there is a classification. This is the temporal area, doesn't need anything, healthy. Another is there is a thinning, they needs the medical treatment. Then this temporal fringe become parallel to or in the line of anterior border of the sideburn. Further resenting takes place and it becomes an inverted C. Class P and R needs the reconstruction by the hair transplant. Reconstruction of the temporal area to me is the most important thing for the side framing of the face. As anterior hairline is important from the front framing of the face, and it is equally important that from the side you also frame the face. This is what, now how do we decide the temporal point? There the 2 points are taken, midfrontal point and the ear lobule, connect with a line, another 2 point, columnololabial junction and pupil, and connect them with the line, and the point of transection of the two lines is your TP. Now, this is FTP and TP. The relation between is, as I said, they recedes in a proportion. So when you reconstruct them, you must do in the proportion. And the distance in a lateral profile between TP and FP should be less than 3 centimeter. Supposingly, if you put MFP, midfrontal point, lower than this, the distance between the TP and line between this will be more, giving it unnatural look. Or if you put TP much posteriorly, then again the distance will be more than 3 centimeter, making it unnatural. So the distance between TP and MFP in a lateral profile should be less than 3 centimeter. Now this is a very good case to understand. It's a routine case of recession, male pattern baldness, but TP is at the normal location, but there is a receding of the temporal fringe. In spite of that, the TP is at the normal position. What we should do? Of course, we can give the medical treatment, but such patient always presses you on lowering of the hairline, or they want this angle obtuse. So how to solve it? I came out with an answer. I designed in a standard way, which I explained before, but I realized there is a gap between this. I filled up this gap without touching the TP, and this is the normal result. This looks quite good, aesthetic. This angle without making the obtuse. Another case of temporal reconstruction. Another case, I should have put little more hair in this case. It's another case, look quite good. Now the characteristic of female hairline. There are 5 characteristic features which are peculiar to the female hairline. One is there is a central mound, then there are the 2 lateral mounds, and the temporal peak which is convex forward. You can see this is convex forward. And fourth is hairline is low as compared to male. And fifth is there is no frontotemporal recession during the balding process in female hair loss. So these are the 5 characteristic features. So how do we put them? How do we recreate them? Actually, take one bindu point or a point between the 2 eyebrows, central point, around 5.5 centimeter in the midline, you mark the mid-frontal point, and 4 centimeter lateral on both sides is the lateral mounds point, and 1 centimeter lateral and 1 centimeter above is a point of temporal peak point or TP point. That's how these are the important landmarks. Of course, there are few other landmarks needed for the reconstruction of female hairline, but these are the most important landmarks to reconstruct it. This is a female receded hairline, wanted the advancement or lowering of the hairline. We mark the same points as explained before, did the reconstruction, so how beautiful and full entry hairline area looks. Now this is another case. Entry hairline is maintained, but is a thinned out with the female pattern hair loss. Hair transplant was done, hairline was made stronger, and post area was filled up, and it looks quite good. Now this is grade 7 plus baldness, in which the parietal hump has dropped down, receded down. In such cases, we always reconstruct the parietal hump. The question is, why do we need to create? Because we need to put frontotemporal point, as I explained you before, frontotemporal point and mid-frontal point, and there is a relation of mid-frontal point and temporal. This is mid-frontal point and frontotemporal point. If you don't create this, then your frontotemporal point will be over the receded or dropped parietal hump, which is going to create an aesthetic hairline. So there is a need to create the parietal hump to create the anterior hairline. So now how do we do that? Mid-frontal point we know where should we locate it. Then the parietal hump is created. The question is what should be the height. In previous cases I explained the parietal hump was not lowered. It was there. So it was much easy to locate frontotemporal point, but here this has dropped, so we have to lift it up. But how much? This is the frontotemporal point. Shall we put on back side, front side, up means down or up? So we need two lines to decide about. One line we know that frontotemporal point should be at the level or higher than the mid-frontal point. So this line is the horizontal line, but we need one more line. I explained you before that in aggressive baldness, higher grade of baldness, a vertical line can be passed just anterior to the tragus. When these 2 points meet, where this should be the height of parietal hump or the location of the frontotemporal point, or you can take posterior border or you can pass this line from the anterior border, provided hair loss is of lower grade and you have good number of donor hair. And another criteria is that a line passing from the lateral canthus, going up and back and meeting to the existing or recreated parietal hump. So now that's what has been done in this case. We created the parietal hump here, and here limited around 1800 grafts we could took from that area. He was put on medical treatment, so you can see good number of hair still. And then we did one more transplant and he looks good. He looks so happy that he removes his specs and started using the contact lens. Now this is an isolated case of mid-scalp restoration in which mid-scalp loss but anterior fringe is present, crown loss is there, temporal areas receded, so we recreated the parietal hump and we created the temporal area, temporal peak point, anterior hairline, but crown was not done in this first setting, and that's how you can see the reconstructed or transplanted look. He needs here, because the crown is flat, here flat, it should be round. In the second setting we did the crown hair transplant also. This is a higher grade of baldness, 4 times hair transplant was done, body hairs were used, more than 6,000 hair grafts were put. This is another case. Now we come to the crown. Crown is the area between the upper border of the occipital fringe and the vertex transition point. So this can be divided into upper, middle and the lower zone, and the whorl on the parting side either at the junction of middle or lower, or it can be the part of the middle zone. So, but the direction you need to understand that there is a variation, there is a whorl, so it is a complex arrangement there can be sometime the 2 whorl, there can be sometime 1 whorl, maybe clockwise, sometime anti-clockwise. You need to understand, and the existing hair guide you in which direction you need to put them. This is what we did in this case. Post-op is again post-op. Third case. This is another case. Now we come to the site or the slit creation. This is the handle over which you can mount the blade. The blade can be rectangle or the angled blade. They comes in custom size, or you can use the hypodermic needle 18, 19, 21. You can bend the angle to make slit in the temporal area or in the crown. Tumescent solution, I think you all know, it should be injected in the subcutaneous plane, never below the galea. Now coronal slit, if a slit you create perpendicular to the direction of hair, these are the coronal. If you create slits parallel to the direction of hair, they are called as the sagittal slit. This is the blade, rectangle blade is being used to create the sagittal blade. If you do that, there are the 2 disadvantages. Supposingly this is 1 mm broad blade, 1 mm. So, but it will cut when you create the sagittal slit, it goes at an angle, and that angle decides about the length of the incision. If this is 1 mm, this incision will be 1.4. So safe linear damage is increased, linear damage to the skin is increased in sagittal slit when you are using a rectangle blade. Another disadvantage is one edge of this goes deeper, causing the vascular trauma. But if you use a rectangle blade to create the coronal slit, the both end cutting end remains at the same level and the incision skin size remains same as that of the size of the blade. Another point is when you create a coronal slit and you implant a multifollicular unit, when the hair grow, they grow side by side, giving the more illusion of fullness, while in sagittal they lie one behind the another, and the elusive effect or cosmetic density looks less because they are one behind the another. You must plan the recipient area, allocate all the graft in different position and in the number, sign it on a paper, take the signature of the patient, create the slit, stain them, and that's the final show. You must create the gradient density to have the maximum illusion, more density front, then lower, and then the lower. Then we come to the direction of hair, forward, laterally, lateral side, laterally. This is in the temporal area, little complex. Upper zone, it goes downward and forward, but in lower zone, downward and backward. That's how the direction of hair. The best is the ghost hair. Ghost hair are the miniaturized hair which are present in the bald scalp, and they can guide you for the angle and the direction of the hair. This is the angle, lowermost angle in the lowermost part of the crown or the vertex, then the low more less than 5 degree in the temporal area, and 10 to 15 degree or 20 degree in the anti-hairline, and maximum in the vertex or the transition point, vertex transition point. Implantation technique, yes. Implantation is one of the most important aspect of the hair transplant. We always stress on the extraction, extraction, extraction. Whatever good extraction you do, if you don't implant them properly, you are going to compromise the final show. Nowadays, they can be done, implantation can be done in pre-made slit or without pre-made slit. I think now most of the implantation is done by the technician. So they should or they can only do implantation in the pre-made slit. If surgeon is doing, then and then he can do implantation without pre-made slit. Without pre-made slit, yes. In pre-made slit or post without pre-made, we can do touch to root or no touch to root. Touch to root means you are grasping the hair follicle from bulb end, bulb size, or a fat below it, or by the side of the bulb perifollicular tissue you are catching. And no touch to root when you are grasping during implantation epidermal end or the hair end when you held. My sincere advice to all youngsters is that if you are starting the practice, start with the implanter right from day one. Initially, it looks expensive, more time consuming, but in the long run, it is going to help you. You can use rainbow implanter, chow implanter, sawa implanter, multi-load implanter, or keep implanter. Another thing is I use this technique, no touch to root technique, using the hypodermic needle and the forceps in pre-made slit. I do this. Then the hair follicle injuries, I made this classification. Macroscopic injury means the transection injury. Microscopic injury are the desiccation injury and direct microtrauma. Desiccation injury is the most common injury sustained or given to a graft. Graft get dries up, assistant do not notice that. So the surgeon should have a constant watch that during the process of extraction to implantation, shortening, the graft should not become dry, otherwise they die. Metabolic injury are the ischemic, cold injury, and reperfusion. These injuries are sustained by the graft when the grafts are outside the body. Reperfusion injury, when you put the graft inside the body again, then the graft may suffer the reperfusion injury. The storage solution, they are the two main storage solution, extracellular and intracellular. Extracellular are the normal saline, ringal lactate, plasma, and PRP. One very important thing to understand, extracellular graft holding solution do not require chilling. If you chill them, if you keep your graft around 4-5 degrees centigrade temperature, then there will be pump failure leading to cell swelling. So don't do that. But if you are using intracellular hypothermosol with or without APP, they should be chilled. Kim and Hong and Limmer did a study in which they proved that graft survival remains same if you implant immediately or if you implant within the 2 hours of ischemia time. The graft survival is not going to be affected, number one. Number two, they do not need cooling or chilling during this process. Third is, whatever graft holding solution you use, the result is going to remain the same. My advice to all you is that you extract the graft, or if you are doing the strip, only take that bunch of the strip which you can dissect and implant within the 2 hours. This is the most important, especially for the starters, that they should cut only which they can chew. So within the 2 hours of ischemia time, your graft should be put back into the scalp. Thank you.